welcome, Pietro. It's great to have you here. I'm super excited for the conversation today. We had a chance to connect a couple of times over the week, including at the exchange, like Heather mentioned. Also got a chance to go virtually to Yemen and see the experience there. And so super excited for the conversation. Maybe for the audience, can you help them understand a little bit more about what the Norwegian Refugee Council is and what your role is there?
Sure. So NRC, or the Norwegian Refugee Council, is a 72-year-old independent humanitarian organization. We exist to protect the lives and the people that are forced to flee from conflict. We do this in 3 ways. Number one, referring back to the VR headsets, we do this through advocacy. We try to speak on behalf of those who have no voice. We try to raise awareness and engagement of people like you and the communities so we can affect change. We also manage a roster of about 1,000 experts that we can deploy at short notice to the UN, an organization like that, when they need a certain boost of staff and because when crisis has hit. But the bulk of our work is direct assistance and really bringing aid to people in need along what I would define the journey of displacement, from the day they leave their homes, trying to save their lives, to all the way to when we can sort of provide long-term solutions. I am fortunate to work with 14,000 extremely committed people, colleagues of mine. About half of these are refugees or displaced people themselves. And we do this in 30 countries. And if you imagine a map in front of me, so if we start Far East, we're talking about the Bangladesh and Myanmar crisis with the Rohingya. Let's go further in, Afghanistan, Iran, the whole Syria context with all the countries around it, Yemen, Libya, the whole belt of Central Africa, so South Sudan. I've worked there 4 years myself, Congo, Nigeria, Niger, and all the way to Latin America, where we are currently responding to the Venezuela crisis, in Colombia and other countries. In 2018, we raised $400 million, and we reached 8.5 million people. So we're very proud of that, and yeah, that's who we are.
Yes. Yes, indeed. That's fantastic, and the impact is so tangible, and the situation is quite sobering in each of these places. Maybe building on that, recently you went to Mosul, Iraq, with Lindsay Knuven, who runs Pluralsight 1 and our social enterprise. Can you share more with the audience about what that experience was like and what you learned from that?
So I guess they wondered why we chose Mosul in the first place. You know, we were 10 days into the partnership, and Lindsay and I were very, very clear on that was a good place to go. So why we went there, a few years ago, NRC looked at its mission and tried to refocus and really, where can we affect change the most? And we looked at our top ambition being to be the leader in hard-to-reach areas. This means bringing aid to locations like that, where most other NGOs and partners wouldn't go. And so I wanted Lindsay and Pluralsight to see what we were able to do in Mosul. And also, I think the second bit was debunk some myths, but I'll get to that. And so we flew into Baghdad, where you can still see the bunkers from the Saddam era. We went up to Erbil, and then we start driving. You start driving west on a straight road, and at the beginning, everything is normal. There's no sign of war until you hit sort of the midway between the two cities, Erbil and Mosul, and that's where ISIS had its last stand. Let's say they reached up to there in terms of their control. There you start seeing camps of tens of thousands of people that live in very congested areas. But if you think back to when Mosul was liberated, it was 2017, and people are still living there. So you ask yourselves, why is that so? And then you keep driving, and then you start seeing the impact of war all the way to the Tigris River, where it divides Mosul in two. And as you get onto the bridge, you see West Mosul, and it's like that. I would say that, maybe half of it is completely destroyed, flattened. 60 schools have been completely destroyed, another 200 damaged. And so we wanted to look at what we can do together in contexts like this. Now, the other reason why we went was really to debunk some myths. And one of them is technology is not for refugees, or technology is not for these kind of crises. And so we actually met a cohort of girls who had just completed a coding club course. And if the slide may change, please. And so we spent 2 or 3 hours with about 18 girls, one of them being Rama. She's 16. And after having fled the ISIS occupation, she came back and she went through a whole class. And she wants to become one of the first female developers of Mosul to rebuild her community and to rebuild Iraq. We also visited the phone mobile clinic or mobile workshop that we can actually move around Mosul, because even though half of the town is destroyed, the mobile net providers came back very quickly. And so there's a whole market for phones and for repair. And so applying these skills can allow them to get employment very quickly. So the idea was really to look at what is possible together and to do it in the location.
A really hard to reach area with a lot of challenges. At that time, I was actually working closely with Lindsay, and every day I was getting messages just to make sure she was okay. There's a lot of danger there, and also it's great to see all these pictures. It's just a fantastic experience and awesome to see the impact there. Recently, we announced a partnership with the NRC, between Pluralsight and NRC, on World Refugee Day. And I think at that point, it was announced that there's approximately 71 million displaced persons globally. Just massive impact, the largest that number has ever been. What's driving that displacement of people in your perspective?
So we could write a PhD thesis on this, but I'll make it very simple. On one side, you have an increasing number of wars, and the intensity of these wars and the weapons used create more destruction, which means and more displacement. But this heavy destruction that we see in Mosul means that it's much more difficult and takes much more time to go back. Okay, so that's on one side, and this keeps coming. If you think about the Yemens of the world, the Libyas of the world. On the other side, we're trying to affect change and get these people out of the cycle of displacement. And we're failing, collectively, we're failing. We're not managing to do it as fast as the need grows. And so this number keeps growing.
And what gives you hope that as global citizens, as companies, your organization, what can we do that gives you hope that we can stem the tide here, we can make an impact?
I have 2 parts to answer that. The first one is at organizational level. I think we've been around 70 years, 72 years. Without being too presumptuous, we think we know what we're doing, and we're doing it fairly well. But I think we've hit a plateau of how fast and the scale we can reach with the resources we have. And so we're starting to enter in partnerships with companies like you and others out here. And we believe that can be a catalyst to going faster, doing better, and delivering more quality aid. But that's at the organizational level. The real thing that makes a difference for me, and I'm a father, and I guess many of you here are the same, fathers and mothers. I've been in this work for 20 years. Whenever we meet children, parents, and so on, not one of them says, I want to get a gun and go and do what they did to me to others. Kids, they want to become a teacher, they want to become a pilot, they want to become maybe a driver of a UN vehicle. And recently I've been hearing that they want to become software developers. So I think that is an extreme source of hope for all of us.
That's great. Hopefully we need a lot more software developers of all kinds, and the more diverse, the better for solving the world's technology problems, so that's great. Maybe building on that, in the partnership that we have, what does success look like for you or from the Norwegian Refugee Council's perspective in the partnership with Pluralsight One, focus on digital transformation and skill development?
I mean, ultimately we need to affect that number. We need to take that number down. So whatever technology we deploy needs to be linked to our mission. If we take it down a level, I would say that really thinking about the people that we're trying to serve, the idea is to provide value to them when they need it, where they need it. So information through mobile technology, for example, when they have a chance to access it on demand and not when our offices are open. I would say bringing new ways of delivering aid, and even bringing technology and skills like what we saw. If I look internally to an organization, it's about efficiency. It's about removing the unnecessary work that prevents us from spending more time where we can add value. And ultimately, I could mention many examples. One more that I would say is, I would love our 14,000 staff to have the confidence and the mindset and the ability to adopt the right technology in the context that we work in, and to do it safely so that we can help better. One more thing, I would love to see more partnerships like this, where there is a genuine interest in what we do and the outcomes that we are driving, and an interest to help us drive them together. Yeah.
That's great. And maybe building on that, as we think about back to the individuals, these individuals that are displaced, I think you mentioned some of the myths around that. For these people that have recently been displaced, what does the role of technology play for them, whether it's in, they're trying to migrate to Greece or going from Venezuela to Colombia? Or what are some examples that maybe the audience could learn about really the role of technology for these recently displaced people?
It's very contextual, but I can give you an example. So one of the things we learned during the Syrian crisis, when people were going from Syria to Turkey and then over to Europe, was that when they landed on the Greek islands, they asked two questions. The first one was, have I reached Greece? Am I in the European Union? Have I made it to safety? And the second one was, where can I access Wi-Fi? Because Wi-Fi was the connection to the ones that were left behind, and also to their peers who were doing the same sort of we were taking the same path north, and then also to charter the path to Germany and beyond, where most of them wanted to end up. It's about, and we've learned from that experience, and so now on the border between Colombia and Venezuela, we're providing hotspots that also propagate and make information available so people can find their way and services. Internally, it's about efficiency. It's about making decisions based on data and not on gut feeling that we heard yesterday. It's about bringing the experience to you through VR headsets, where you don't necessarily have to do like Lindsay did, but you can experience this here and actually feel that empathy that was talked about during the conference. Yeah.
That's great. To wrap up, there may be people in the audience that are interested in what can they do to help. Yeah. So what would you offer as a call to action or what people can do to help here?
So first of all, if you haven't gone to the booth, please do so. We're there all day. I would say, in all your communities, there will be refugees. There will be people that have been affected by displacement in some shape or form. I would say get engaged, talk to them. That's always a good start. Follow us, follow our work, follow the partnership. I think, you can even donate to us if you want, individually as companies. That's always welcome. But in these 3 days, I've met, I don't know how many people I've met. I met authors, I met a lot of people from Pluralsight, and I felt the excitement and I felt the interest to help us drive the mission. And so if you're one of those, do reach out, do get in touch, hold us accountable to this partnership, because there's a big investment from both sides. And ultimately, we're ambitious, and we want to look at taking the ecosystem of yourselves and the platform to a different level. So let's see what we can do together.
Awesome.
Yeah?
Thanks, Pietro. It was great.
Welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.